Alright guys, that's Kremp again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Potential drama continuing going into the World Championship on gentlemen's agreements with Black Ops 7 getting revealed. There was lots of talk about whether changes need to seriously be made to the gentlemen's agreements for that upcoming title with the way that the pros are handling things. But going into champs, could we potentially see major returns? We've got the patch update staying the same. Would the pros change their mind on another topic as well? JP says that Brand and Dashy would definitely be down for a sniper return to competitive play. Whether that's going to happen in this short time frame maybe is pretty unlikely if the other pros have anything to say about it. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into today. Starting here, Donny Temp is going to look to return to competitive Call of Duty. That's the talking point really of yesterday. We obviously had the show a couple of days ago and that was as entertaining as ever. But Don did tweet out yesterday, free agent here for Black Ops 7. So there are players looking to come back. Don, of course, had a great career as, well, for many years, really. Even from Advanced Warfare, he was playing at a good level. Then things changed around, of course, because of the age restrictions. He then came back a few years later in World War II, and kind of especially around that type of era, going into Modern Warfare 19, when he was on the New York subline, has had some good success. And then, of course, the latter end of his career ended up on Legion, and despite still being very solid, that was, of course, a serious challenge to go anywhere. He was on Thieves for a season. That didn't really work out after all the chaos of that Cold War Thieves year. So, look, Temp then decided to call it a day. There was maybe an option to go back to Legion again, but he decided to go down to Challenges, try and make that work. He's now in college, right, doing great stuff over there. So, you know, there's the option for collegiate and all this. But Temp's looking to return, full stop, to competitive play. And, look, I think this is probably part and parcel of a couple of things. Of course, that competitive itch never really goes away, and I think Don's still probably got a lot of gas left in the tank. But equally, BO7 has caused, you know, some excitement, I would say, among the community, that maybe it's going to be a more solid game, that this is the game that Treyarch really wanted to make and all this. But I generally agree with you guys in the comment section of yesterday's video to say, look, I'm not exactly super excited about this title. I'm absolutely going to be taking it with a pinch of salt, all the developments that we see, but still, Temp's now saying that he's a free agent coming back for the new game. We had Illy making it pretty clear that that's a possibility for him as well with the new title in BO7. Even Attach, although I don't think Attach will return, he didn't exactly rule it out. He was like, look, if Jetpacks come back, maybe there's some consideration to be had. I wouldn't say the league is going to expand yet. If the league was going to expand, we'd probably have heard rumours about it, to 16 teams, for example, because I think the reality is there's probably another couple of teams that still need to be sold. Boston will probably still look to pack up operations. They were trying to do it last year. Ravens are frankly probably begging to get out of the league if they can. I don't know. It doesn't seem like they really run things the right way. And there's been talk about a couple of different organizations, either Saudi teams, Twisted Minds, Alcatia Esports, and maybe other mainstream, let's say, esports brands as well, looking to come into competitive Call of Duty and replace one or both of those teams. Pretty unlikely that we have that happen, and also we have 4 teams expanding, so I'm not sure the number of player spots in the league is going to go up. If it does at some point, that will encourage more players to, you know, either return or keep competing or stay around, because it, you know, opens more doors. And, you know, Don says in the replies, because obviously we'd run the Dope Check show, that he's like, Monday's the day after the Cups, I'll be there, no problem. And, you know, what do you mean? Monday's the off day for the CDL teams. So, you know, if Don was to get a spot back in the league. So we'll see how it goes. I think that if Don was to return, I hope that he would get an opportunity somewhere. Maybe he would have to grind his way through challenges again, kind of like, you know, has been tried before. And it's very difficult to make that work. But at the end of the day, for a lot of players in the scene, it's about connections. It's about who you know. It's about, you know, situations like that. Because, look, Don said it on the show the other day. Was Kenny good this year? No, Kenny was not good this year. His OpTic stint was terrible. He went to Rocker, and I think he redeemed himself a bit. Like, is Kenny's stock as a player higher now that he went to Rocker than if he just stayed on OpTic? Among the fans, I would say possibly yes, marginally. Like, when he left OpTic, people were like, damn, this guy, you know, is he ever going to be the same player again? He went to Rocker, and the team wasn't really any better with him than Paul X. I think they were a bit better, but not much. And they didn't make champs anyway, by quite some margin in the ends. But at least Kenny individually kind of showed out and was at least respectable and proved that he could still shoot straight at the very least in a different situation. So I think for the fans that helped. But, you know, what Don said really is that among the players, Kenny's reputation has always been right at the top, right? Like, there's no doubt that whatever Kenny did, if he took the rest of the season off, he came back to this team, Kenny's always held and will continue to be held for some time in very high regard by the pros, and therefore he's always going to get opportunities, and hopefully opportunities that he wants to take because he wants to stay in Texas, things like this. For other players, it's not quite so clear-cut. Of course, we're going to see how that goes in due course, but let's talk about some of the drama with the run to the World Championship, right? Because the big talking point the other day was about the old or the new patch update. What are the CDL going to play on? They eventually elected to use the old patch, the same version they've played, Major 3, Major 4. Thieves are rather happy about it. They won both events on that patch. OpTic and other teams were more keen to use the newer version of the game, but for various reasons, because the game was broken, that was simply not possible to make happen. But GA, as gentlemen's agreements, what the pros would decide, has been a big conversation point lately, and especially with BO7 seemingly on the horizon. We saw yesterday that active camo could be returning to the game. Certainly in the trailer, you can see a guy use active camouflage in, well, what is presumably the campaign mission, but if it's in campaign, it's likely they will find some use for it in multiplayer potentially as well. Now, that used to be a specialist ability, right, back in Black Ops 3, where we saw it before, such as what you guys can see partly on the screen here, the War Machine, the Purifier, the Scythe. They were all specialist weapons, but the specialist abilities, as we know, included things like Glitch and Heat Wave and active camo and some other options such as that. So if the game is going to be somewhat similar to Black Ops 3. There's been lots of talk about what that might look like, whether Ban and Protect could potentially return, because the primary issue with Ban and Protect was, if you guys aren't familiar with this, before every single match, I mean, this was true in ranked play as well, which unfortunately took forever. But in the CDL, I think it added definitely a depth to the game that the teams would be able to protect or ban certain items. If you protected an item, nobody else could ban it. And if you banned it, then of course nobody could protect it, but also nobody could use it in the game that was to follow. And this was a very interesting feature. Treyarch's intention before the game cycle started, that this would simply replace the need for any rules. You wouldn't need to ban UAV or, you know, hater, mothership, whatever, because you would just deal with it in ban and protect. It quickly became evident that no, you do still need a handful of base bans, but then the bans that the players could come up with would change the way that the game was played and made it so you had to be more adaptable. It made things, I think, more interesting for the fans as well, because, you know, some series, many series in fact, Killer's team would ban the Man of War, or sorry, they would ban the M8 and they would want to use the Man of War or some other AR. In fact, Zero was even saying that he was, happy to ban the M8 because he got so good with the XR2 that, so it created a really fascinating dynamic for the players. And also for the fans, I would say as well. Now, there was a bit of cheat. People were banning Blast Suppressor, people were banning Afterburner, and making the gameplay rather different than it did otherwise. But maybe that's the whole skill of it, that you get to, have to adapt and have to play differently. My opinion has always been the majority of Ban and Protect would simply go ban High Cal, ban Rapid Fire, ban Stuns, ban Flashes. Like, basically, they had a series of base bans and GAs that the players would ban anyway. And then there are only a couple of slots that the teams could really mess around with. They would usually ban like Heat Wave or something like that anyway. But some teams decided to mix it up and switch it up and make it rather interesting. But the question, of course, fast forwarding to today is, well, okay, let's say we did have specialists back in the game. Would we even play with them? Would a ban and protect type system even work? Or would the pros simply gentleman's agreement them straight out of the game? We've seen in recent years, and people even say, oh, you look back to BO2, that game would not even be played in the same way because the pros would just ban all of the good guns. Like the M8 would be GA'd, the RK5 and BO3 would be GA'd, like they did this year and like they've done for previous years. The pros just ban the stuff that I don't really like. And that is obviously a big talking point when it comes to the new title and whether that's going to change anything for that, right? Would active camo even be allowed? Would the pros just GA it? Back in the day, the pros seem to have a different approach. And that's also potentially relevant going into the World Championship as well, because JP's been live over the last few days. Kevy Skills made this point about the new title as well, about, can we maybe stop GAing things and at least have something like snipers back in the game? You guys might remember in the Vanguard season when the pros were going to ban the snipers because they were too powerful in Cold War, and effectively the community forced them to try them at the kickoff, and nobody used the damn sniper rifle anyway. It wasn't even too strong. So it's a point of massive frustration from the community. And going into Champs, this year, we've not seen the snipers either, of course. But as JP said on stream the other day, that look, snipers for the World Championship they would be down. OpTic would be down. Now, of course, the teams that haven't won the most recent events, they will be down to change the game to some degree, right? Like, that is just how it's going to be. We know that Search and Destroy would be a critical factor for OpTic or for really any team if they want to try and make it to win this World Championship.
On GA for the sniper for champs, fuck it. Hey, get Tommy on the case, bro. Get Tommy on the case. Brandon will be down. We will vote for it, fuck it.
We know that Search and Destroy will be a critical factor for any team that's trying to win this year's World Championship, and certainly I think that's true for OpTic. Shotzzy even said it. Their search has to get better if they want to win champs, and that's going to be potentially the key mode that if they do go on to win back-to-back, that they will capitalize on. So of course, teams like OpTic and players like Dashy with his talent in the sniper rifle role will be very willing to try and bring something like this back. The top teams, of course, would not be so convinced, and they're playing the game at this point. It's doubtful that anything like this would actually happen before the World Championship, even if they had a great conversation in the GA chat to this effect. The teams are probably still going to say no. And I do wonder, like this season, we've seen the CDL step in quite a lot. They've said, look, these are the maps you guys are going to play. This is how it's going to be. And the players aren't necessarily so happy about it. But for certain things, the league can't control. If the players agree themselves not to use a certain gun, the league can't force the players to use it, right? Like, they can say, because the pros can just say, well, we just don't think it's competitively viable, and what is the league going to do about it? Nothing much, really. But there would be some excitement, of course, about having snipers back in the game for the World Championship, especially for Search and Destroy. Is it actually going to happen, even though OpTic seem to be down for it? Not so sure that's actually what we're going to see, right? And even this is somewhat true, you know, Fringe and all this arriving in Season 4, there were questions on when it was going to arrive and whether it was going to be relevant and whether the teams could take advantage of that, what the pros would think, what the league would think about it. But yeah, it's obviously a big challenge to make this work right now for competitive COD. And just one final thing, from an SMG only perspective, highest ever KD at the World Championship. The lowest on here is aBeZy and MW19, which was a challenging game for you know, SMG players, as we know. Kremp at a 1.31 in BO2. Saint in Ghost, underrated player in his career. Scump was on here basically 3 years in a row. AW, BO3, Infinite Warfare, that's pretty crazy. Attach in World War II, who, you know, ran quite a lot. BO4 Simp is actually the highest ever anyone with a 1.35. Scump was on it again in Cold War Champs, which is kind of remarkable to think about that longevity. And in recent years, it's been Pred, HyDra, Pred. This year, we'll see. Is HyDra going to get another appearance? Scump and Preds are the only two players that have been on here twice. And certainly you'd expect HyDra to have a pretty solid performance after what Thieves have done so far this season, and potentially what they might do at the World Championship as well, especially if the game is going to be basically the same as we have seen here over the last few minutes. So very much interested to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
So Gunless says this: man, pro players have zero fucking IQ. Yeah, I eat some pasta before game day, nothing heavy. Like, sir, that's literally one of the heaviest things you can eat. I mean, look, Don, what's your go-to? You got a match coming up.
I feel like from player to player, it depends on how old you are. So like when I was younger, the go-to ideal way is to not eat. If you eat like a bowl, like a Chinese shrimp and broccoli before you play, you might throw up the bullshit. Like one of my worst series, my first time I ever got shit on, like it was like I kind of had like a Mercules run. Like I joined the league and I just had a 1.3 and I was just going crazy, right? First match I ever got shit on, it was at X Games. I don't know what year it was, 2015, I guess. X Games in AW. And fucking, I was 300 something pounds. I walked outside, got 2 chicken pot pies because I'm 300. It's time for me to eat at the time where I was trying to get the food. So I go eat the food, thinking like everything cool, blah, blah, blah. I'm finna go play OpTic, which is, they won the event. They was the best team at the time. 0.4. And my team knew it. My team, they knew, like, bro, this fat motherfucker literally went outside. He was sweating. I came back drenched, too. I'm drenched eating chicken pot pie. Mind you, I only walked like a minute and a half. Like, I didn't walk that far for them shits. They look at me like this fat motherfucker. And then they weren't even mad at me. They're just like, bro, this guy's just fucking humongous, bro. Like, we'll be fine tomorrow. And then we were. But, like, it definitely, the shit that you eat, I think it matters, bro.
Like he saw Dan Ghosty in that COD League video, and he said, "No, I'm fucking mad. Like, what you doing?"
Yeah, he actually tweeted this shit with venom, bro.
Like, what do you mean you're eating pasta and getting
right?
this guy don't know nutrition. Like, this shit gonna be making you angry.